Hi, first grade. It is our second lesson for this week for science. I'm hoping you came up with some really neat shadows from our last lesson and had some fun with that as well. So just to remind us on how we see things, that was the question we had towards the beginning of this unit. How are we able to see things? This diagram shows that if we shine a light, and it doesn't have to be a flashlight, remember light sources can be sunshine, moon, stars, a lamp in our home, or a campfire could be a source of light. When that light shines on an object, such as the flashlight shining on the ball here, then we are able to see it. So the light needs to be there for us to be able to see things. Remember in the video we watched, if there isn't any source of light, then you cannot see things. So the way we are able to see things is by having a light source. So this led me to showing you or sharing with you a little bit of a video. This week they released some bats, and these are bats that they find in different places that are injured or need to be taken care of over the winter from different places in Omaha. And the Nebraska Wildlife Rehab Center, they will take these bats in. They'll help them if they're injured and just take care of them during the winter when it's too cold for them to be outside and when there's not enough food for them to eat. So I'm going to show you a little bit of the video that they did. They usually will do this at the Joslyn Art Museum in Omaha, and people can go watch it and you can get really close to where they're releasing the bats. But since they're asking us to stay home right now, they decided to do it on Facebook. So I'm going to pull that up and show you a little bit. And I'm not going to share the volume with you because there's some information that we don't really need to know from her video right now as first graders. There's just a lot that she gave us, and I don't want us to get too much information. But they released about 400 bats. So imagine how many bats there were. This is just one of the cages. They had a couple big ones like this, and then they had a bunch of small containers. You might be able to see later on in the video. In this cage, there's all females. And she said the reason they do that, they have all females in here, is because sometimes the boys will pick on the girls during the winter if they're in the same cage. So they keep the girls and the boys in separate cages so that the boys don't bother the girls. You can see all those cages underneath the table. Those are all filled with bats as well. And so they are very carefully going to help these bats all go back into the wild. And they talked about how they're all wearing gloves so that they don't have to worry about getting hurt by the bats. The bats won't usually bite people unless they feel like they are in danger. So if they are trying to protect themselves, then they do what they need to do to protect themselves. But they don't just come around and just come after people. Bats are really good for us to actually have. A lot of people think they're gross or they're ugly or they're scary, but they help a lot in Omaha to keep us from having too many bugs. Some types of bats will eat mosquitoes, and imagine how many mosquitoes we would have if there wasn't something eating those mosquitoes up. The brown bats actually eat more beetles and I don't remember what else she said, but they don't usually eat the mosquitoes. It's a different type of bat, and there are several different types of bats in the world. In fact, there are, I think she said, 13 different species that are in North America. You can see that they are just giving them each a chance to fly off. They make sure that they are all flying really well. If any of them goes down to the ground, they check them out, make sure that they're still okay and that they fly off. But I just thought this was a really neat video for you guys to see. Something that is done to help take care of animals in Omaha. This organization also works with possums and raccoons and squirrels. If there's ever a mountain lion or a cougar or a fox, they'll work with them as well. Just trying to keep everything healthy. And they also teach classes to help us learn what we can do to help take care of these animals, because all of them are important. Even though we don't always know how they help us, we would notice if they weren't around to do what their job is. Every animal that is on Earth has a job, and if one of those animals isn't there to do that job, then it can cause problems. So just wanted you to see a little bit of this that went on this week. And I'm going to switch it back to our PowerPoint. So this led me to thinking, we've been talking about light and how we can't see unless light is shining on something, right? Well, bats actually don't have very good vision. They don't see very well. So I started wondering, if bats don't see very well, then how does that work? Plus they're flying around at nighttime, and yeah, there's the moon and there's stars and there's things that could help create, or there are light sources that could light things up, but it's still a little harder to see in the dark. We probably saw that when we did our activity out our windows after the sun went down. Well, what I have found out is that bats see a little different than we do. They use what's called echolocation. And instead of using their eyes to see things, they'll make a noise, and that noise will send sound waves to an object, and then that sound will bounce back to their ears, and then they can hear if something is in the way, how far away it is, and that's how they can decide which way they need to fly, or if there is danger in front of them that they need to be on the lookout for. So I just thought this was interesting to think about, because we see things and we know we see things because of the light, but if the bats can't see as well as we can, this is what they do. They use their noises to be able to see what they're looking at, which is kind of interesting. If you closed your eyes and you made a noise, would you be able to tell how far an object is away from you, or what that object is? That might be an interesting experiment to do over this next few days. I will be sending you more videos for next week. Hope everyone is doing well, and I will be talking to you later.